Hey guys, Ajax22 here, and as promised, this is the complete Mad Gunsmith's steampunk-esque 1911, the really insane one. This is the only complete gun that was that came from that guy. That we got all the other parts for the steampunk guns, and he sort of inadvertently did his own steampunk thing on this one. Yeah, this is pretty nuts. Brass hand-fitted trigger guard extender piece that is actually screwed on here through the trigger guard and also down through here. He's got a rail attachment that's the old school, 3/4 dovetail made out of brass, and then he was big on these little fingers. He used these fingers to adjust drag tension, and he did them all over the place on different guns. I don't know what the hell this was. He had one of these on another frame made out of aluminum, but this one is brass. I originally was thinking that this was some kind of a factory part that he was adapting, but it seems like this was something that he was turning himself, which is a ridiculous amount of work. These are actually brass panels with serrations that he would mill into the side of the gun, and then I think he epoxied them or soldered them, I'm not sure. Yeah, a lot of extensive modification. Yeah, and this is a government model Colt automatic. I would be very upset if this wasn't kind of neat. Yeah. Extended safety, old school micro sight, and then this looks like an actual custom front sight with the same kind of a dovetail, and then an amazing amount of work to insert like a little piece of plastic. He actually machined into it and fitted a little bit of plastic. The most surprising thing about this gun, though, to me, isn't the overall steampunk look of it, but the fact that he actually was using this as a test platform for a cartridge that he invented, which I don't know if you can tell easily, but this thing is a 22, but it's a 22 barrel with a 45 chamber, and it shoots these, and that's not a joke. It's a real cartridge that he came up with. It's a 223 projectile loaded backwards and stuck into a 45 casing that's neck down, and I think they used a standard countersink to create the angle of the shoulder. Like, he rounded a countersink and then made his own dies for this. This isn't something that I've ever seen before, and it worked, as illustrated by the expended casings. There's only 4 loaded cartridges still, but there's a bunch of these, and supposedly there's a set of dies for these kicking around somewhere. So at some point we're actually going to load this thing up and shoot it. We're going to have to sort of reverse engineer the powder load that he was using, but this thing's kind of nuts. Yeah. I'm gonna need both hands real quick. I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. I just needed to break this apart. as you can see, he made his own buffered guide rod. It's got a little bit of a spring detent that holds it in place there. Just a ridiculous amount of work on this gun. Doesn't look like he did any too radical in the way of ramping, but a little bit of fitment to the ejector. Pretty standard on the frame, really. I don't know what the circle was. I'm not sure. I think he might have just accidentally touched something to the frame there. The barrel is a Colt 45 Auto Mark IV Series 70 barrel, according to the chamber, but it appears to be a piece of a chamber that he actually bored out and then threaded a 223 barrel piece in. And this might have, I don't know the twist rate and I'm not sure of the metallurgy, but I would guess to say that that's probably a piece of an AR barrel. Yeah, significant work to the slide, which was pretty radical for the time frame that this guy would have been working on these. You know, modified ejector. Once again, I mean, for the time, it was pretty forward-looking. His usual internal threading of the slide, fitting of a brass bush or a copper bushing in this case, and then the threaded tube that screws in for there. It's just kind of a neat gun. Steampunk didn't exist when he was doing this stuff. Sort of accidentally came up with it on his own. And it all works and is functional and feels pretty good when you hold it and point it, despite all the weird, crap. That actually gives you a pretty good purchase on the gun. And when you're, using your support hand, that trigger piece, I actually wouldn't mind making a couple of frames that had, something like that, even if it was just integral to the design. That little hook up front is really kind of nice. And this one's really well done in terms of the fit and the feel. It's very hand done. You can tell by the slight asymmetry, which makes sense. This would be an amazingly difficult part to machine. Totally machine. But it's a different kind of animal. As you can see, it goes right in. Only have 4 rounds of this stuff left, so we can't just shoot them. We need to figure out what the powder was in them, pull the projectiles, weigh them, either make our own or find somebody who can make some dies. We might need a couple of different ones to size it down that far. That's pretty radical. But I'll bet this thing gets them cooking out of there. And with the standard bullet shape, reverse loaded, that's the same thing that they did for the early anti-tank rifles. They just loaded the bullets backwards. Sorry about that. Phone ran out of memory again. But we're on the SD card now, properly formatted and ready to go. Not a whole lot left to tell on this. It's just a really different and unique kind of piece. I don't know what he used as a basis for the components. It almost seems like this was a piece off another gun that was fitted. It's because of the difference in the screws, the mounting screws versus the copper screw that's actually part of it. It might have been an aftermarket component for the day, but it's the type of weird stuff the guy was coming up with on his own. I mean, he did a lot of stuff. This one doesn't have it, but a lot of his slides have cuts to create fingers so that he could adjust drag tension and make it fit, you know, tighter to the frame. I mean, this gun was clearly a platform for something that he was trying out in terms of a new cartridge, but a lot of the other stuff that he did, we just don't know what he was doing with it. I mean, it's well done, and a remarkable amount of time that went into everything, but yeah. Supposedly the guy is still around. We have the information from the Droz or the FFL transaction with the where he got rid of the gun, and I'm gonna reach out to him. No guarantees, but I'd love to actually sit the guy down and be like, so what were you doing with these guns, and why? And if it wasn't you that started this project, who was it and why were they doing it? And just pick their mind. Because this sort of level of eccentricity is really kind of a rare thing to find out there in the gun world. You know, a lot of people do things that have been, you know, hashed and rehashed to death and do their own little take on it, but this stuff's pretty radical. I mean, you know, you see stuff like this out there at gun shows, but usually it's a joke. You know, it's like a 50 BMG casing that's necked down to 22, so that just for a display purpose, it's humorous. You know, somebody actually necking a 45 down to a 22 and then building a gun that it'll actually shoot in, that's different. That's a unique critter right there. A rare cat, as they say. Anyway, I don't know what else to tell you about this one, other than it's unique, amazing. My buddy bought it for $50 from the guy because he just didn't want it anymore. Yeah. Not a lot to tell. Really wish this was one in my collection, but unfortunately, it's my buddy's. But it's a good buddy, so I don't have to worry about it going away. It's still in the family, as it were. But yeah, definitely a source of inspiration for future projects. And look at that, he even milled in to allow for the magazine to clear. The brass, I don't know, finger support. It's held in with brass screws, conventional brass screws. It's just really well done. And then, you know, standard GI plastic grips. He must have had a ton of these things and paid nothing for them. Can't imagine cutting up a Colt like that, but you know, it's been done, and now that it is done, it's kind of neat. I'd hate to say it, but it's kind of neat. Alright guys, I'm gonna get going. I got some other work to do, but yeah, as promised, the 2245 insane toy. If it doesn't get much more steampunk than that, you know, or diesel punk, or or just eccentric. Have a good one.